Feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it tickers.
Hey everybody, welcome to the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank. I am your co-host, Ted Jenkin. Sitting here with my co-host, Chris Hanks, who's the executive director and founder of the Shore Center for Entrepreneurship. We are joined today by our guest, Jennifer Miotke, who is a partner at 8 at 8 and One-on-One Matchmaking, a fabulous company here in Atlanta doing great things for teaming people up, getting those relationships happening. We talked about some real cool stuff on the show today, so you ought to check out the replay at shrimptankpodcast.com or download us on iTunes and listen to our entire broadcast. You'll learn something about dating for sure.
So, and I know we talked about so much content, but one thing I was curious about is what shouldn't your clients do on a date?
So the advice I give the most is usually to men, because I feel like I'm a pitcher and I'm throwing them strikes about the kind of person they want to date.
It's like batting practice.
Right. So my biggest frustration is when men don't ask out a woman on a second date while they're on the first date. In this day and age, they feel like they need to text her, not call her. They feel like calling her is overwhelming, a bit like showing up at her door in a window or something, I guess. And they feel like calling her, they need to give her space. So I just think the easiest thing to do is, if you like a woman, to ask her out on the first date while you're on a second date. And just say, I had a great time tonight. You're really cute. We should go out again. What does next week look like for you? I'm free Thursday and Sunday. You'll know if you're being blown off on the spot, probably, by the way she reacts. And if you can't lock down a date within 2 weeks, she doesn't like you. Let's move on. That's the biggest one. And then I think for women, women are bitches. I mean, they're just overly critical. They're constantly trying to decide whether or not, they like him, or he's probably intimidating me because, I have an advanced degree and he doesn't have an advanced degree, even though he out-earns me by $200,000. So I think the women are constantly evaluating why something may not work based on what somebody said, instead of just sort of like, thinking like a guy, like, yeah, I thought he was cute. I had a good time talking to him, and I'd probably go out with him again. It's just that simple. I think women can overanalyze it.
Jennifer, in a lot of professional services businesses, the idea of you trying to match your client, finding that ideal client, can be very difficult. It could be a CPA or an attorney and feeling the ideal client base. How do you go through the process, which I imagine is very difficult, to be able to match one person with another to try and find those two pieces of the puzzle that might go together? How do you do that?
Well, I think that opposites attract really well in personality, or it's like can go with like, or opposites attract. But we definitely, I put a lot of thought into where they're from. I think that what area of the country somebody was raised in dictates a lot of their upbringing. The socioeconomic class they were raised in is a big part of their upbringing too. Religion in their life, and a little bit about hobbies and interests. So you're trying to get 85% of the equation right.
This is like the 23andMe. It's a swab, and we try and get them to get as close as possible on here. Right. Very interesting.
But you can't have two reserved personalities together. That, in my experience, that hasn't worked.
So, in so many businesses, you have to have difficult conversations with employees and sometimes customers. But in your business, you have to have some brutal conversations with your customers. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, the longer I do it, the more confident I get that I know what I'm talking about. So, I'll say to them what I'm thinking is, I feel like you're looking for a reason for things not to work. I mean, you won't date a guy who lives outside the perimeter. You won't date a guy who doesn't have a master's degree. You won't date outside of your ethnicity. And you won't date somebody that doesn't have an advanced degree. I mean, I made you flex on one of those things. You said you had a good time, but you have decided that it's probably never going to work because he doesn't have an advanced degree. Do you feel like you're looking at this in the most positive light? I mean, you have to have those conversations with people, and you have to sometimes you have to set them up on dates to qualify what I believed initially, right? About what other people have said about them. I'm giving you this feedback because I thought this when we first met. It was like pulling teeth to get you to answer questions. And, I really had to pull things out of you. And your dates have said that it was painful. They use the word painful. So I need you to come in with 3 or 4 questions ready for this date. So
best pickup bar in Atlanta?
Ooh. I still like the St. Regis for like people over 45.
Come on.
House for women over
House
50
for sure.
looking for successful men.
And how about most romantic restaurant you think in Atlanta? Is there one like you'd say, or a couple romantic restaurant?
Gosh, I live in East Cobb. I go to Chili's. Romantic restaurants. Okay. I still like Anise and Portofino, somewhere quaint and small,
nice restaurant,
and kind of quiet, and not super trendy.
Very, very cool stuff. Well, we had a great podcast today. Jennifer, thanks for coming on the show. For folks that are watching the post-show wrap-up and they're thinking about getting a personalized one-on-one matchmaking, which they have a very reasonable service for, or they want to go on an 8-on-8 experience. We have 8 people at dinner, and how can they get in touch with you and your company and learn more about it?
So I'd love it if you guys just call me. We could have a conversation. It all starts there. My direct line is 404-355-7828. You can go to the website and fill out a profile. The website for 8 at 8 is 8 using the numeral, the word at, 8 using the numeral again.com. And the website for the personalized matchmaking service is one-on-one matchmaking using the numerals, one-on-one matchmaking.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank. And for those of you that are watching the broadcast, for men out there, we learned today on the program, you must pay on the first date. It is non-negotiable. For parents more concerned like me, I realize that Netflix and chill means naked. Not so good. But thanks so much, and you have watched the post-show wrap-up of the Shrimp Tank.